Rosen, founder and CEO of Fastcall, and I'm going to talk for a few minutes about release notes. I thought I would just do the last few, sort of cover summer 2021. So I'll start with 7.32, which we released in June. And in this release, we added some improvements around IVR, and we'll see that again later, and also some notification in Salesforce Mobile, and the ability to sort objects for inbound search. So let's come take a look here. So the notifications are user settings. So if I come in here to Fastcall settings and I go to user settings, I think these are actually under inbound, you'll see that all of our user settings are here. So I can play a sound for inbound calls, which plays in the browser. I can enable desktop notifications or Salesforce mobile notifications. The desktop notifications are in Chrome, and you need to allow that in Chrome. This is Salesforce mobile notifications, which is also great when you're receiving an inbound call on your mobile phone. SMS, similar, missed calls. So all of our user notifications are here. So the Salesforce mobile notifications and desktop are both somewhat new. And then we said we're going to go here to call handling, pop into IVR. We actually have some subsequent updates here, but I'll get to that again. So for the IVR action under call transfer, there's now two updates here. So under transfer target, we can go to record owner. So that is new, where the transfer target will look at the record owner, and we can do the same thing for the voicemail. So if a call comes in and there is a record and the record's owned, before this update we left a voicemail, and that voicemail was assigned to the record owner. As a matter of fact, if we come in here and we look at an IVR action that says voicemail, we used to only have the ability to have the voicemail be owned by a Salesforce user, and now we'll look for the record owner. So if a call is missed but there was a record, the voicemail can be owned by the record owner. Let's see here. There was a third sales notifications, sort objects. Okay, so the next, which is also really cool, so we have managed objects here, and this is another area we've been working on quite a bit, have some other related updates here, but one of them is the ability to sort these objects. So when a call comes in, we're searching for the account first, then the contact and the lead. And one of the reasons that this is helpful is that if you happen to have a duplicate phone number on the lead and the contact, which you should not for the sake of clean data, but if you happen to, we will search the contact first. And as I mentioned, in the subsequent update, there's also some additional filtering that's available on these objects. Okay, so that was 7.32 and right around June. So coming up next would be let's see here. So this was our security review submission. So 7.38 looks like we skipped a 3.6. I think that was also related to security review updates. So here we made some changes to the way that we manage the Salesforce task object. And the let's see here. So if we come in call logging and we go to tasks, to start, we give you the ability to create a task or not create a task. We always create the custom records for calls, connections, attempts, which we can see here. So if we look at, it doesn't matter. Here's an inbound call on task. So here we are creating a task. We have a combination of, on this org, we have a combination of standard fields and custom fields. So call result is a standard Salesforce field. The from and to numbers are custom. The subject is standard. Call recording is custom. So there's a combination of both. And As we talked about actually several years ago when we first released the data model, Salesforce has a hard limit of 100 custom task fields. So as a Salesforce partner, you're trying to manage that. When we introduced our data model, which gives us the call record, and so you can see here there's a call record, which is everything here is custom because it's a custom object, so all the fields are custom. And then related, we have connections. So there are calls, connections, connection attempts, and then as we've added to that voicemail to have more and more capabilities. You'll see here we have SMS. There's a custom option for voicemails. This links back to the standard object for task activities, the connection attempt. So as we go back to so all the detail that we're giving you is on the custom object. So, and you can see here we have a custom object for reply calls, call interactions, which is what's happening within the voicemail. Looks like I had a reply call twice. I liked it so much. Quality events is actually also new. It's where and I'm going to get to that actually in a few minutes. It's where we have some data about this specific what's happening during the specific calls. But going back to activities, at one time when we first developed the application, we had all this on the activity and the task, and the subscriber would say, hey Rich, we really want to see, and some of this is still in org, we want to see the call time, which of course is actually in the stamp from Salesforce, the created by stamp. We said, okay, we'll put it in a separate field, right? So we just kept adding custom fields, and then it gets to be too much. So we've really gone back to zero. So we now have zero custom fields on tasks, and everything is going to be logged on the call record. And what we've done to replace that is back in the settings under task, we have added a new table. So in addition to sort of deciding sort of when you are creating tasks, we've added a new table here. So this basically is saying, and for our current subscribers who are upgrading, this would have automatically mapped. So the from number, the to number, it maps. Now, if you chose to not use the Fastcall custom field for the to phone number, and you already had that field in your org, but the better example of that is call recording. If you wanted to map up call recording to an existing field that you already have in your org, maybe it was even from a package that we're using last year, we were creating a custom call recording field, and for some orgs, we log in, we see two call recording fields because the application they used last year also created a field. You can now map this to your own custom field. So we're not creating a custom field for you. And another reason that that's beneficial, actually for all of these, is Salesforce does not let non-licensed users access custom fields in a managed package, so all of these would not be accessed by your users who were not Fastcall users, so management who wanted to look at reports could not see any of these custom fields, and Salesforce controls all that, but now you can, right? So, because these are no longer managed fields. For a new install, from a new install Fastcall, you would map these up, or we give the option to create those fields. So if you did not have a to or from phone number, we would create them for you, but we do that post install. So that and that actually took us to zero. So we now are packaging zero custom fields on task, which really is the best possible state, because an install from the App Exchange will actually fail if there's not enough fields available, which is part of the reason why we did this. But it was just sort of the final chapter in the evolution of the data model off of the task, and there even was still some fields left over from Classic, which we did get rid of. Okay, so that was a sort of a major change in 7.38. Was really sort of updating that data model and task. We don't think that you should have any impact on the org. So the next came, which was sort of this week, end of August, beginning of September. Looks like we spelled conditional wrong. To fix that, Fastcall IVR update. So another change to the conditional routing. for the IVR, which is really interesting because in addition to just looking for that record owner, as I showed you a few minutes ago, now we're actually able to specifically filter through a lead. So in this case, owner ID, which is sort of the obvious one, which says if the owner is this, go to that IVR. If the owner is that, so there's, like many of the IVRs, there's always a primary and secondary IVR. So if the condition is met, go here. If the condition is not met, go there. So that is new. We've also introduced some tags, which we're going to use in a couple different places, but the first was SMS Template. So in SMS, I can either search for the template name or pick tags. So if I had, 100 or hundreds of SMS templates that were tagged, you can now sort them by tags, which is helpful for orgs that have lots of SMS templates. Call quality feedback, I mentioned before, is also new in a couple of different ways. In this particular area, there is a new option when you end the call to set feedback in addition to finishing that process as you did before. Looks like I'm kind of doing all this in screenshots. You can now set the feedback, and then you're going to see how was your call, and you can give it some stars. And that's helpful when there are call quality issues, and you want an easy way to identify those to your team, to identify those to you, the admin. So let's pop back over. Let's see here. So, and we'll start there. We'll start with some of those reports. We have actually been making some updates to overall and to our reports, but let's come over here for our Fastcall folder. So this is, it may actually be a little bit different in the package because this is in this particular org, but there are reports now of call quality, as I mentioned before, which is a new custom object. So this one is by users. And what you're really going to see here is not necessarily the measures of call quality events on their own, but the fact that users are different, right? Because the packet loss, bytes received, these are all just warnings that are all coming from Twilio, and they're coming during the call. Twilio is just saying, hey, something's going on during the call, and by themselves, that doesn't generally tell you anything. It doesn't mean the call failed. It just means there was things happening during a call that Twilio wants to tell you about. But what's really can be helpful is if you're looking at a week and you happen to see, and we have a report for that, and you happen to see that clearly one day of that week had more events than the other, then there was an issue, right? Because you saw that there was sort of a peak on Tuesday. So that is a new object, and these are new reports that can help troubleshoot some call issues. And it's all basically the same data. We just gave it to you in 3 different ways. So inbound, outbound calls, by users, and by timeline. And again, the individual events themselves don't mean a whole lot, but looking at the trends should be helpful. And that's another area that we'll continue to add to. So I mentioned, and we looked at the IVR a second ago, and we'll go back to that again because we did 2 updates around the IVR. So this transfer target, we talked about the record owner and the ability to come in and do some specific filtering around the record owner. So as we showed, you can look at specific owner. So if the record is owned by a specific user, by lead status, account status, so it's just filtering. So of course we have to find the match, but when we find the match, well, we're now doing some conditional routing, and that's an area where you're going to see more and more improvement. As a matter of fact, I was in the complete wrong place. The action is actually totally wrong place. This is actually a new action. This conditional routing is a new action. So that table is going to be here. You're going to create a new type of IVR, which is called conditional routing, give it a name, and then basically, again, this will sit on top of 2 other IVRs. So when the record is found, when the record's not found, and then you'll search for the object here, so it could be contact, and then again, you can filter in to that contact. So contact status is kind of the obvious one. So I pick my IVR here, and then I'm going to be able to add my field names over here. So it's similar to other places that you're doing this type of conditional setup in Salesforce. I don't know. It's probably somewhat a little bit similar to maybe Process Builder or other areas, but Fastcall does some other setup like this as well. Okay, did I cover everything? So we'll do this one in screenshots because it's actually just as easy because I don't have to start a call. Tags. Yeah, so tags. I mean, it's, as it sort of sounds. So there's if I come into SMS and I want to set a template, there's tags, right? Just like the screenshot. Okay, so speaking of SMS, that is actually an area where we are currently working, and in our next update, which should be September, we have a lot of changes coming to SMS. One, we're going to start supporting SMS in Salesforce Mobile, but more so, we're also really going to actually completely change the way that we handle SMS today. The SMS is really related to the user, and we're going to update this so the SMS really has more of a relationship to the record. So that means that multiple users can come into an SMS conversation and reply to an SMS because the SMS is really going to have a closer association to the record and less of an association to the user. It's going to improve how the SMS is threaded and then also deliver SMS to Salesforce Mobile. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. I don't usually talk about multiple releases in one video, but kind of seemed appropriate. Salesforce releases 3 times a year. We tend to release once a month, sometimes more often. But again, I covered a couple of updates in the same video. So hopefully it's helpful. Shoot us an email if you have any additional questions, and we will see you